dad loved me and you were made out of love.
Yes.
There was never a moment of hate. And I cannot say now that I hate him. We are just not in the same page. We have differences, like people who have differences that are unable to be resolved.
Yeah.
And that does not mean I hate him now, because we also need to understand that you cannot love from a point of hate, and you cannot give good out of hate.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, this child will always be a constant reminder of what you shared.
Yeah.
And if you relate to it as a hating experience, unfortunately, you will need to hate them at some point.
Yeah.
So you need to also allow your children to identify themselves before you identify them yourself. Yes, you will identify them. You will identify them based on, I've got one child, but because I'm a registered counselor, I do see people in my office. And you realize that one person wants to identify with all children the same. They're not the same.
Yeah.
You need to allow them to identify themselves. When they are done identifying themselves, also identify them based on the positive things that they've brought into your life, because there'll be negative things. Do you really need to hold on to the negative things? When I had my son, I was doing my third year. Do I really need to hold on to the fact that I was doing it my third year, I was unemployed, and my son's dad watched me in campus and did nothing about it? Can I really hold on to that? No, because it does not yield any positive results. It does not give me any positive feel. What do I hold on to? I hold on to the fact that I was in love with that man. That what made that child was love.
Yes.
That no one can take that away from me. Not even 9 years later. No one. Even if I'm to get married again, no one will convince me that
that child is an inconvenience.
Yes. No, it's not. It's not a bad thing. That child was a product of love at that point.
Yes.
The fact that 9 years later we are not in love anymore does not change how that child was done.
You're dropping gems,
And
Mama.
you also, when you want to engage with children, my biggest goal is, as a child that went through my own childhood trauma, and when raising my child, I was very specific. I was very, very specific that I am going to be a mother who understands feelings before actions.
Yeah.
We are very big on understanding what are you doing instead of what are you feeling. I'm very big on wanting to understand Kiddo. I call my son Kiddo. I always ask him, Kiddo, how are you feeling? Kiddo, what does this make you feel? Because that is how he was able to say, I feel like my father doesn't love me. Because he has that platform based on the inconsistencies that the father has brought, and based on how consistent I am as a mother, that he can now identify how love looks like and how love does not look like. So you need to go back to the age of be at their age. And that's what I'm trying to say. Be at their age. If my son is 9, I try and ask myself,
travel all the way
how
back.
would I feel as a 9-year-old? What would I want to hear? And remember, I was raised in a family. My parents are still together. And I remember the other day we were having a conversation with my mom, and she said there was a time where I felt that my kids, based on they were feeling my pains, they were feeling everything that I was feeling. That point, for me, I then had to realize I had to grow up before time.
Yeah.
Do I really want my son to grow up before time? No. I want him to go through every little stage of being a child and understand that being a child is okay. That he doesn't have to fight my battles, because they end up fighting our battles one way or the other.
Yeah.
And another thing, the one thing that we usually do as women, and I'm going to underline as women because I think most here are women that have been sharing their stories, is you take accountability for everything that happened in their relationship. Everything. You cannot take accountability for everything. There's no way you were the only one that was wrong. And there's no way that the other person was the only one that was wrong. I remember there was a time that I sat down with my parents and I said, there is no way you guys could have expected me and my son's dad to get married because we had a child as children. So I have forgiven that, because for me I'm okay with not being married with him because that was not the plan. What I'm not okay with, and I'm not going to act like I'm okay with, is him not raising his child because we had the child together.
Absolutely.
So I took fair share of accountability. Accountability for what? And I do not carry accountability for what is not mine, because that is when you're going to I'm sorry, Chivenda will pop in one way or the other. But we are going to take accountability for what is yours. Take accountability for your share, for your mistakes, for your faults. And and forgive yourself for those faults. For me, I always say to myself, I forgive myself for having my child young, but I do not regret having him, because 9 years later is the best thing that has ever happened to me. So the tips I had parents asking, some parents were asking, how do we raise children? The one tip that I'm gonna also, not one tip, but one thing in psychology that we say is your pregnancy identifies the first 4 years of your child's life. Someone ask why. The feelings, remember, the child is alive in your stomach. They experience your day to day. They experience your emotion. They experience your anxiety. That is why there are some people who are born with chronic anxiety, because that is how it was during the pregnancy. So you need to be intentional at whatever age that you pick up to say, I want to be a different type of a parent. You need to ask yourself, how was my pregnancy? So Mina, I cried a lot because our relationship ended very immediate after I became pregnant. I cried a lot. My son cries.